All right, we'll get started in a few minutes. Hopefully, people are joining us on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you are, good afternoon. And we still got about 2 minutes before we get started. Like going live a little bit early so we can listen to the new music that StreamYard's given us. But if you are joining us, be sure to say hello in the comments. I can see the LinkedIn and the YouTube comments. Daniel, good to see you. So we'll start in just a minute. And I did post the StreamYard, so should see that in some of the links out there if you want to join us. Talk live on the show. Turn the music off and get ready. All right, so it looks like we're at the top of the hour. It is 11 o'clock on April 8th, and it looks like we have some people joining us. So, yeah, so welcome everybody for joining us. Hopefully you're joining us from either YouTube or LinkedIn. I see that we might have some people joining us on the StreamYard. Hopefully you'll go video so that we can see you and get you on the show. And welcome everybody. This is the Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. It's April 8th, 2022. We're here once again to just kind of talk about our weeks and see what's going on out there in the industry, and just hopefully hosting everybody, and seeing if we can answer any questions, talk about some of the recent comments. Daniel's already posting and saying hello, so if you're joining us and listening in, please go ahead and do that, and say hello. Let me know that you're out there. Post any questions out there. Daniel talking about the background music. StreamYard doesn't allow us to upload music just yet, but definitely need to. Hopefully they can get that updated soon so we can get some good background music. S. McCarty, let's go ahead and add you to the stream, and then hopefully you can hear us and see us. So are you going to speak to us today? Or let's see, are you muted? I can unmute your mic.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. Hey, greetings. I don't know if you can go video or not. Is that possible?
I don't have a camera on this computer I'm on.
Oh, okay. Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. Hey, thanks for joining us. And before I actually get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself so that everybody knows who's talking with us.
Yeah, I'm Scott McCarty. I work for Accenture as an industrial cybersecurity engineer. I just took that GICSP SANS course with you a couple weeks ago. So that's how I got involved with your Cutaway Security Discord and everything.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Scott. And so usually what we do is I start off with talking about cutaway security activities, and then we get into chatting and questions and stuff like that. So feel free to jump in at any time if you have a question or you want to talk about a subject or something like that. So this week what I'm doing is as you can see from my background, I'm actually in a cube out at a location. I'm out at a client site. We're doing a SCADA gas security assessment, so not really a penetration test, but we've got a level 3 environment that is being deployed. Some of the solution is an Aviva a DNA solution that's going in, and we're helping them understand the current configuration a little bit better so that they can do some security improvements. Really looking at and focusing a lot of this assessment it's been less about the communications, industrial control communications security, and more about Active Directory, getting on the systems, looking at the systems and stuff like that. So that's really what we've been doing this week. You see a comment right there that we might want to talk about. Uh, which is domain admins, and I understand how it's difficult to configure systems, and but at the same time, we do want to limit domain admin, domain administration credentials as much as possible. It's hard to roll things back once things are in place. So it's always my recommendation to try to get the security for the accounts up front. But fortunately, this client is doing a really good job on a lot of the configurations. It's but every place can have some improvements. So it's definitely something to look at when we're going in there. So Scott, what are your experiences this week?
I just rolled off a project, so I have a little bit of downtime. But I think I mentioned it in the class that I took with you, but I've
Mhm.
started learning Active Directory in the OT environment. I did a crash course on it, and I am a domain admin, and I got the whole spiel on you have the keys and you can make us lose our job at any minute. Um, but so that was definitely interesting to learn. I
Mhm.
had one quick question on that. Is there I didn't ask my project lead, but is there like a tracking, like a who changes what kind of tracking of like auditing for domain admin changes and stuff?
So
Either built in or third party, I guess.
right. So and I believe your question is around um, are there system events that are generated when any type of admin or makes a modification to an environment, whether it's to the domain, to systems, or to accounts? Is that your question?
Yeah, so like if someone adds or changes a GPO or moves
Hmm.
computers around or things like that.
Oh yes. So I mean, Windows does a really good job of event logs, and uh, one of the things that does need to happen is centralizing those logs. So events are going to be generated. Anything that you're doing associated with the domain is modifications to systems and users. Those will probably be events on the domain controller. So those logs should be centrally logged. And but if they're not, you should still have those events. And one of the things that I like to recommend to people is that you never know when your central logging is going to go down. And even if you have that, even if you have a robust system in place, uh, you have to most of those events are going to be forwarded to other locations. And Windows logs by default, they eat their own tail, which is basically as you're generating new events, if the log file's full, uh, then it's going to overwrite the oldest log entry. And so if you're going with the default event log sizes, uh, for a system, they're usually only about 20 megabytes, and those fill up really quick. So the types of events that you're talking about, modifications to systems and so forth, if you're not careful, you could overwrite them. So I do think that everything you're talking about it would be logged. It's just a matter of figuring out which event log is in. Uh, and whether or not you're getting that to a central location. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of my favorite um, YouTube videos around ICS security is Mike Hoffman's ICS Security Summit talk from I think it was in 2019, and it's where he actually went through and tested when he was working for Shell. He actually went through and tested setting up a Windows Event Server and um, and tested like the how much throughput, how much what was the impact on the network, what was the impact on the actual servers themselves if they were forced to centrally log, and he got a lot of excellent information about the implementation of that. So going out to it's up on the SANS ICS YouTube channel, and I've posted multiple links. Actually, he um, spoke with me about that last year when we were doing the ICS concepts, and so that's out there as well. So that's one of my favorite talks. Anything else you got going on this week, Scott?
No, just been supporting access control programs, backup programs for a customer client that we did domains and endpoint protection kind of installs for.
Mhm.
So
Oh, excellent.
just yeah, so I'm waiting for my next big project to start, which I've been told might
Hmm.
be a tire manufacturer, which is going to be a
Oh,
lot
that's
stinkier
interesting.
than what I've been doing before, which is lumber.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, lumber. That's see, that's I mean, and that's what's interesting about industrial controls is that there are so many different industries that have these types of environments. Sometimes you don't even realize it, that this type of stuff is in there. So I'm watching for comments. Hey, Daniel, let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Let us know if you have any questions or if there's a topic you want to talk about. If you're joining us from YouTube or from LinkedIn, I can see the comments, so make sure that you're putting them up there if you have a question for myself or for Scott. um, yeah. So, this week, in the Cutaway Security Discord, I've been a little bit distracted. I've been up on the, at this client site, so I've been a little bit distracted from interacting with everybody that's joined the Cutaway Security Discord. But one of the things that they talked about or recommended that we speak about is Windows DCOM, and I guess there's some vulnerabilities that they called out, the CVE 20 or 2021 26414. And basically this is I did a little bit of research, and I didn't get very far with this one. It looks like it's a security bypass feature. It's associated with Kerberos. So I'll have to take another look at that, but I really I think what they're trying to talk about is the fact that Windows is moving away from DCOM. It's not a feature that is going to be supported in the future. And so the fact that this potentially is going to have issues for anybody implementing OPC, meaning that they aren't going to be able to update some of their systems until they can update and move fully from OPC DA to OPC UA. So that's something that organizations are going to have to start talking about if they're using that. So I see that Wes joined us. Hey, Wes, thanks for joining us once again. One of our people that return each week. So if there's any questions, Wes, let me know, and we'll talk about it. So Scott, any experience with OPC for any of your clients?
Yeah, I've implemented OPC, but that was a long time ago when I worked for a PLC manufacturer. Not since I've done
Oh,
anything
mhm,
cybersecurity related. Just OPC, A&E, and DA. I haven't touched UA yet.
mhm. Right, and I've dealt with it just a little bit, but it was more of understanding what we could get to, querying the information, and not really the using anything attacking DCOM or anything like that. We didn't really go after that, so it was just more some information gathering. Not a lot of experience here. That's why it's difficult for me to talk about this subject, but I wanted to bring it up and definitely mention the fact that Windows is moving away from it, and organizations need to have that conversation. Another topic that kind of came up this week, and I like to talk about, and this is actually coming out of one of my utility clients, and the way that and I might have mentioned this before, but we'll bring it up again. the way we talk about and do security assessments for this client is that they've got this new process. And that new process is doing an architecture review and kind of a basic threat modeling, really taking a look at the what's being implemented. We get all the documentation for the environment. We sit down with the kind of like a liaison for the project that we're going to be assessing. And we do kind of a threat model. And the ultimate goal is to identify use cases that we want to test to, that are specific to that environment, what they're implementing there. And so we get a test plan, and that test plan is going to have some information around accounts that we need, access to different types of systems and networks. And what happens out of that is that with that test plan, they give that team for that area 2 weeks to set everything up, which is a great way to get them started. If they have any specific questions about what we're going to be doing, it allows us to have another meeting before we actually come on site. We get everything set up, if we need to do training, and if we need special PPE for that location. And then so the threat model, the architecture review and the threat model happens, and then 2 weeks later, that's when we come on site to do whatever type of assessment, whether it's a security assessment or it's an actual penetration test within that environment. And I'm really liking that model. And I'm hoping that people that are listening to this, that are doing these types of things, doing security assessments within the industrial control environments, take in consideration about that, because we need to build we need to build bridges and not walls. And when you're coming in to do a security assessment within the control environment, if the people that are managing that don't have an understanding of what's going to happen, then they can have a concern. So I think that helps with the concern. I'm looking at the chat. So, Daniel, what versions of Windows servers are you dealing with concerning the DCOM vulnerability? Well, it's going to. I would assume it's going to be some of the older versions. If DCOM is implemented and turned on for those systems, then testing that. And like I said, Daniel, I don't have a lot of experience uh, taking advantage of DCOM within an environment, so I really don't feel like I can speak to that very specifically. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to avoid your question, Daniel. Let's see. Wes has a question. Speaking on domain admins, would it be worth implementing something other than Windows Active Directory, Open LDAP, uh, being that it's a lot of work to maintain and secure properly? Wes, so that's an interesting approach. And while you could do that, what one of the things that I feel that you might run into is that you're going to have people that are trained on that. And when you're so that takes extra training. Also, it takes updated documentation. And I would say that most people, most vendors and integrators, most people that are working in these types of environments that have set up Windows environments in the past, they're going to be more experienced with Windows Active Directory. So while certainly you can go with some type of Open LDAP or some other technique for authentication, really, I would say that sticking with the Windows Active Directory is going to be your best bet, because that's what your vendors, that's what your integrators are going to understand. More than likely, they're going to force that on you if that's a part of their solution. So hopefully that answers your question, Wes. And I'd be happy to if you have any recommendations or suggestions that people can go out and check that out, let that happen. Or please post that in the comments. Daniel, you're saying that, yeah, I see DCOM is up to server 2012, and then it's also on Windows 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, it's, yeah, so, having those capabilities moving forward in the Windows 11. I'm assuming that they don't have DCOM on Windows 11, and we're going to run into some of those older servers, Server 2012. Not sure if that's end of life. I'd have to go double check that page again. Um, so, Scott, are you doing anything with, so you're preparing for your clients, and going on site. So what type of things, so what type of stuff do you do for scoping and for preparing to go on site to work with the team?
I haven't done an assessment in about a year or so,
Hmm.
since I changed jobs, but usually just have a pre-scoping questionnaire that we send out a lot of times with like the proposal, just get some baseline information, then asking for documentation, asking for on-site personnel to be prepared to be interviewed. I remember I went on
Hmm.
one assessment. They didn't tell the on-site people at all what we were doing, which was fun. It was like they wanted the
Right.
cybersecurity
Yeah.
people to show up and be like, "Gotcha," which isn't at all the attempt we want to go with. We want to be allies, not
Hmm.
the teacher that's come in and slap your wrist. Um,
Right. Yeah, and
but
that's
yeah,
what I try to remind people about, is that security is support. We're here
mhm.
to, support, whether it's administrators or whether it's the engineers and the operators. We are we're not a business unit that makes money or anything like that. We're here to support them, support their administrators in pulling things down. So, or I mean, not pulling things down. Excuse me, that was a slip of the tongue. Helping them so that people can't pull things down and make services unavailable and take advantage of things. So, we want to improve the resilience and the reliability and the availability of any organization. So, yeah, that kickoff meeting must have been pretty interesting for you when you got on site.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the I think it was on a rig, so we helicoptered out there, and the
Oh,
rig manager was he kind of knew what we were doing, but no one else did. So the techs that we were working with, the operators we were working with, were very apprehensive.
so did you have to qualify for helicopter training, like crash and rollover and stuff?
Yeah, I did the Hewitt training. No,
Okay,
the
that's
or
see.
no, yeah, the boat. No, Bozit's the more
Mhm.
advanced one. I almost did Bozit because I was gonna go to the North Sea once, but COVID happened.
So yeah, so what does that training entail?
The Hewitt is the helicopter underwater escape training or something. I think is what it stands
Okay.
for. That's
Hmm.
half a day indoors in a classroom, and then half a day, like 4 hours out in a pool, swimming around, learning how to
Hmm.
float, learning how to use your clothing to your advantage, and then you get the whole drop and roll over in a submersible. Because I we had a coworker of mine, unfortunately, we were trying to bring our pen tester on board,
Hmm.
and he's not a strong swimmer, and he walked to the pool and then left. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do this," so he didn't come.
I mean, but yeah, and you have to, some people, that's difficult for them, and I had to do that training in the Marine Corps, and yeah, I can't remember if that was the same name, but basically we just called it the rollover training, and so we did all of the things that you talked about there, getting in the helicopter, getting a point of contact, having it roll over, and then basically finding your way out. So. Uh, that was anytime I was in the pool, I was having a good time. So that was actually fun for us, or fun for most of us, just because we were used to the water at that point. So all right, let's see. So the last thing that we have on there is kind of interesting. The Clarity Team 82 write up for the Rockwell PLC, and this is they're of course they're using the buzzword. They're kind of equating it to um, the risk of this is some type of Stuxnet style attack. So they're using the Stuxnet buzzword, but at the same time, it is a pretty interesting. If you go read the write up that they have there about this, they're able to modify the basically the executing program. So the attackers it allows attackers to write usable. Uh, user readable program code to a separate memory location from the executed compile code. Basically, the code that is the configuration for the PLC that is being exposed to the operator when they're connecting their software to that. It looks like the code is normal, but the actual executing code that's running out of memory is different. It's actually whatever the attacker uploaded to it. And it's definitely an interesting attack. I'm not sure of. I didn't have time to go review the configuration of the Rockwell PLC to understand what was going on with the configuration, whether they have a run mode that would have prevented the uploading of the malicious code. So I'll definitely have to go and read up a little bit more on that and look at the recommendations for that. So did you see that when it came out, Scott?
I did not. Did
Mhm.
not at all. That's interesting. So yeah, it's interesting to see more Stuxnet like stuff show up.
Yeah, and these, anytime you're dealing with uh, a device like this, a PLC, the software that is provided by the manufacturer, they're providing the operators, the engineers, a lot of control through their software. And the fact that it doesn't really surprise me that some of the I think it was an Eaton PLC that I was dealing with a couple weeks ago, and one of the capabilities by the software, once you put it into the programming mode, so you had to authenticate to their HMI. You had to start up the IDE. Then you had to authenticate to that software. Then you're able to actually force different points on the system, even though the running code was doing other things. You could force certain situations, and I was able to, because I was on that local network. I was able to do packet captures, and we could see the information being exchanged. And because it wasn't encrypted, probably could have modified that with some type of machine in the middle attack if we were on that network. But at the same time, it was an isolated network. It would be very unlikely that we'd get a rogue on that network to do those things. It would have taken me a lot of more research to figure out which bits were being flipped to force certain points in there. And at the same time, I would also have to put the PLC into the programming mode. So I would have to figure out some way to do that. So
So
there a lot of times there's hoops you have to jump through.
I got a
You were going to say
question
something?
then. So
Hmm.
are there any industry standards towards what PLC manufacturers have to do towards cybersecurity? Because I know I come from the safety space. So there's
Hmm.
61508, like here's how you make a safety system design. And does 62443 touch on that? Is there something similar where there's a separate one for like, hey, you guys should do XYZ to make it secure? I know when I worked at a PLC manufacturer, they had something called the Achilles certification. I think ISA 99 was starting to put out some sort of things specific towards PLC cybersecurity. But has anything kind of come around full circle for that?
Well, so from my understanding, the ISA certifications, ISA secure, I think,
Yeah, that's
which
right.
are right, which are providing the guidance. That's more of a program. It's
Hmm.
validating that your hardware and your software development has achieved certain standards around what they're doing. Now, I don't think that necessarily puts out information for specifically you will have your PLCs can and can't do this. Like if you're going to have remote programming capabilities, that it has to be password protected. Those requirements may be in there, and Daniel is pointing out that the 62443 4-1 is for product development. So there might be some guidance around there, but we can't stifle innovation and
Right.
capabilities. So uh, I think what we've seen is that a lot of this type of uh, capabilities was born out of the necessity to be able to have um, uh, management capabilities, whether it was because of certain situations, whether it was for safety or whether it was for operations. The operators needed that, and so but I think that's how it got built in. But certainly now that they understand that people are on these networks, that threat actors are going to be coming after this, or that people are going to be taking advantage of that, they're starting to build in some of those authentication mechanisms, those ways to prevent remotely enabling some of these things without having to go through specific steps to enable that capability. And I think that's really where what it boils down to is that we shouldn't, the capabilities that we're describing should be a part of the products, but there should be some very specific steps, and hopefully steps that require physical access to the PLC to put it into the condition where you can do these things. Now, all of that boils down to safety, right? If it's not safe to go to that location, some of the locations that you're talking about, flying somebody out to a helicopter, flying an operator out to on a helicopter to a gas and oil platform to do some of this type of maintenance, that might not be possible. So, it really depends on the situation. Oh, and then the 62443 4-2 is for the technical security requirements for those. So I'd have to go back and read that, um, uh, read those documentations again.
Okay, you'll have to. I don't know if I probably have access to those uh, standards through my company. Yeah, I just always tie
Yeah.
everything back to safety because that's where I came from, and I always kind of feel like, at least politically, cybersecurity and OT is 10, 15 years behind where safety is.
Hmm.
So all the battles that safety was doing is like, oh, we don't need it, we don't need it, we don't need it, is what cyber's been going through the last few years. And safety did that 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Oh yeah, no, and that's we're always gonna technology is always gonna lag. People are always gonna lag. I mean, the fact that we have to plan our the control environments 3 years in advance. A lot of the things that we're buying, we purchase the equipment and then get it all planned out. By the time it's actually getting deployed and up and running within our environment, the vendors that have already moved on, they've identified vulnerabilities and they moved on to new products. But what are we going to do? Redesign the whole thing again? Because that would be the requirement, or if we're going to update the products. So it is kind of difficult to address some of these things, and we have to use our compensating controls. Hey, we're at the bottom of the hour, so it's 11:30. Our 30 minutes are up. Scott, I really appreciate you joining me, and to have this conversation. It's always great to talk to somebody else about a lot of these topics. Daniel, Wes, thanks for joining us this time. And asking questions and providing input. I really appreciate it. Next week, we'll be back. I'll actually be at home, and so back in a more familiar environment, and we'll talk to everybody again. So, hey, Scott, have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us.
You too, Don. Thanks for having this session.
All right, everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.